Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 94 of the Teacher Emilio podcast. I am your host, Emilio, and on today's episode, we'll come back to the question. This is a bit of an update whether we should take IELTS or PTE in 2024 now that we've got all these visa changes here in Australia, now that the English level requirement has been increased, roughly speaking, going from a 6 to a 6.5 or from an overall of 60 to a 65. Now it's getting a bit more difficult to extend visas, to enter university courses, and the whole rest of it, right? Even we've got all these challenges now that the visa prices are going up. It's basically more difficult to come to Australia. It is more difficult to extend the visa. It's not impossible. I'm not a migration expert, but there are still students coming, which is good news. But obviously these changes are basically affecting us, and I include myself in it because as a teacher, I get stressed when my students get stressed, when you guys get stressed, or when you're thinking of taking the exam, and then it's the old question, the never-ending question: should I take IELTS? Should I take PTE? And well, it's 2024, and I think it's been a while since I've made an update on whether you should take one exam or the other. On my previous episode or video, I basically said to keep things very simple, you need to think about what exam is best for you. And I'm afraid to tell you, if I have to summarize this episode or this video, if I need to summarize this in a few words, I'll say it still depends on you. The tricky thing is, though, that for many of us, or you listening or thinking of taking one or the other, it's now you gotta think a bit more, because now you don't need just a 6. Now you need a 6.5, which may not sound like a lot, but to put things in perspective, I'll put it this way. Imagine that if you're getting ready for either or, improving in half a band in terms of skills, right? Not thinking too much about the test itself, but in terms of skill, I would say that it should, or of most people, because again, we've got different learners, people that have different strengths, weaknesses, but probably, if I needed to come up here on the podcast and give you a range, I would say that you, as the candidate, you would expect that approximately, I'm gonna say 2 to 6 weeks of extra practice to polish our skills, to improve in that half a band, because in some cases it is an overall of 6, and from my understanding, look, like I said, this is not legal advice or anything along those lines, but I have had students who have come to me saying, teacher, I need a 6 in IELTS, a 6.5 in each band minimum, while others have said I need an overall of 6. An overall of 6.5, which is a bit different. With PT, the same thing would apply. I need to get, instead of 60, now I need to get 65, but I can get overall 65, which is not the same as saying getting 65 on each band. Meaning that as the person getting ready for the test, you would need to put more time, right? And that's, I think, part of the problem. That this is it's a little change. It's like just raising the bar. It's obviously not going from 6 to 7. That will be a massive jump. But still, it is to the point where it gets people thinking more and more. Should I do one? Should I do the other? And then it's tricky, right? It's a bit more difficult to decide. Obviously, those who love PTE, or like if you go on the internet, if you talk to people that you know, or like if you do a quick search on the internet, you're gonna know very quickly that PTE is the easier exam. Everyone has done it. Your best friend's cousin's boyfriend, best friend did PTE. So maybe you should go and do PTE as well, because PTE is really easy. Maybe you should do PTE because you've got all the tricks. But then what happens? You go, you do PTE, and you find out that it is not as easy as you were told it is. Then you come, do another search, and you come and ask me, hey Emilio, I don't know what to do. And then, well, here we are talking a bit about these 2 exams. While PTE has got this fame of being easier, the problem is that now that the bands have been raised, or like the score needed has been increased, it is more difficult, because now I want you to think about it this way. Now, as a candidate, people need, or you, if you're thinking of taking this exam, now you need more grammar, more vocabulary, and of course you need obviously more fluency, better pronunciation. But the thing is that all of those things are going to be necessary for IELTS as well. And with IELTS, what seems to be happening is like, oh my god, IELTS is hard, IELTS is difficult. And then it's like it's raising the bar, so it's like IELTS is impossible, it's like this monster that nobody can beat. Now that the bar has been raised, it is even more difficult. And it may not necessarily be the case, because if we go back to the analogy I was telling you of those 2 to 6 weeks, now candidates, by having a bit of extra time to prepare, then it will be less of a challenge. Is it going to be easier than PTE? Not necessarily, but it really depends. And I think that what we need to be asking ourselves is, what is my goal? What is the score that I need? Because it is not, something that I have said in the podcast, but maybe it's worth repeating, is that you may need to take the test more than once. There should be a study, or maybe I should conduct a study to find out roughly how many times people take exams. And I would say most, if not almost everyone, has taken at least twice. Either or, twice IELTS or twice PTE. Sometimes the first time is what you need to get your foot in the door, to get started. It could be like to extend your visa, it could be to enter university, it could be to start a process with something, let's say for example a work, a sponsorship maybe. But then for whatever reason, life, the universe, the stars, God, karma, Buddha, whatever you believe in, brings back to you the test for whatever reason. Right? And then you would need to do it at least 2 times. Maybe, I would say that putting aside all the different problems that people can have, it is likely that on average, most people, including myself, would do the test anywhere between 2 to 4 times. Does that mean that the test is impossible or this or that? Not necessarily. So as you're listening to this statistic, don't be like, oh my god, I don't want to do the test a few times. Look, I know, nobody wants to, and the test is not cheap. $455, $460 as of 2024. Maybe it's gonna get even more expensive in the future. Obviously, you don't want to be doing that, but anything can happen. Maybe, just to give you a few things that could go wrong, and this is not even with the exam itself. It could be that you are getting ready for the test, you have all the preparation, you have all these, let's say, all this plan, but then suddenly something happened. And just to give you again some ideas, it could be like something happens in your country, it could be, unfortunately, maybe something happens to family, or you're going through a tough challenge. I've had students telling me things like, look, I'm having problems at work. And then, as you know, no work, no income, how do I pay my bills? Big problem, I have to now pay the test, it's another bill. How am I gonna do? I'm gonna max out my credit card, I'm gonna get in debt, and that's already a problem. That's one thing. It could also be that, you have problems with your family, or another thing could be, I'm gonna use my country as an example, Venezuela, beautiful place, but throughout my 12 years here in Australia, Venezuela has been going through ups and downs, and one of the worst, Venezuela has been through a crisis, right? An extremely tough time. And even though I didn't have to take the test during that time, it was extremely stressful, just talking to friends, family, people there. So anything can happen that maybe doesn't really have to do with your English skills. So it is possible that yes, you may have to take the test a few times. So I would just say, if that is you, just don't get too stressed. It happens to all of us. And if you listen to my previous episode, that happens to me too. I'm not coming here being like, oh look, I'm a superhuman, look how cool I am. That happens to all of us. I made a mistake in the middle of the test, and I had been preparing for that exam for about, 6 months? And then guess what? I skipped a page, something happened, extra stress, the examiner talked to me in the middle of the exam, mini heart attack happening, and then obviously all that really affected me. Am I going to pass or fail? I don't know, so you'll have to stick, basically, not only to the end of this episode, you'll need to stick with me for a few weeks because this exam takes a bit longer. But the point being is that you should budget for the possibility of taking the test a few times for whatever reason. Another thing is that as learners, we may have better skills than others. Some of my students, they write incredibly well, but when they go to an interview in IELTS, they get nervous. Or maybe the other thing is true. They do everything well in PTE, perfect grammar, all good, but then when they have to talk to the microphone, they get nervous. Something happens. Then what are you gonna do about that? And then this is just one scenario. Let me tell you another one. Oh, then you've got someone who talks to friends, family, no worries, everybody understands you. But then what happens? You go to the PTE computer and then the PTE computer doesn't understand you. That's a problem. Or it could even be the whole opposite. Your speaking is amazing. You get 90 on PTE speaking, but then on your reading, you're getting 50. That's a problem. What can be happening? Well, maybe, your speaking skills, pronunciation, fluency, all that is going really well, but maybe we have got a bit of a weak in grammar, a bit of weak reading comprehension, and all these things that ultimately will affect you. And by the way, this could happen with both exams. So I just said now PTE, but I think that every time I say PTE, think about PTE or IELTS, or even like the Duolingo test, any of these exams that we are used. So 65, 6.5, is it better to do one or the other? The way I look at it is like this. Now it is more difficult. PTE used to be, or PTE in general, it's tricky because it is easier, but it's still difficult. I think that's always my catchphrase. PTE, probably it is easier than IELTS, but it's still a challenge. So yes, PTE now, it is a bit more difficult, and it is probably still a bit more difficult than, a bit easier than IELTS. And IELTS, yes, it did become a little bit more difficult, but is it impossible? Not necessarily, because again, it's all to me in a mix of the training, the preparation. Unfortunately, what happens, and this is what I've noticed sometimes when people contact me, it's like, Emilio, when you teach in class, do you teach all the PTE tricks? And I've said this many times, and I'll say it probably until my hair goes white. And it is very simple. You don't need the tricks. If you need the tricks, we have a problem with your English. The tricks are an extra. What you should be doing is improving your skills. As I said before, you want to have good pronunciation, good grammar, good listening comprehension, good reading comprehension. You want to write well. You don't want to be second guessing yourself in the exam. And the same thing that I just told you will apply with IELTS. You don't want to be doing any tricks in IELTS. And this gets really interesting because IELTS learners know that, for example, writing templates don't work, and that you cannot just memorize a few things, or that you can approach a certain part of the speaking interview in a certain way. I'm sure you know what I mean, especially if you have been checking how PTE is approached. And this is what makes IELTS more difficult, that you cannot get away through the exam in that way. Now, just because you have that, does that mean that you should not take IELTS and you should still go for PTE? Not necessarily. Unfortunately, maybe some of you may have to only take IELTS. Like I said, this is not migration or legal advice, so please do your homework, check online, talk to a migration agent, talk to your lawyer. But in some cases, you may only need IELTS. For example, if you want to get a skills assessment in Australia, there are different organizations, different bodies, and some of them may only take IELTS, or only IELTS academic. Or the same thing could be true with PTE. Maybe you want to do IELTS for whatever reason, but then the organization only takes PTE. So you have to check basically, because even though you may want to do an exam, or this is like something that happens to some students, is like, for whatever reason, everyone tells them do PTE, but they cannot do PTE, so they have to go and face the dragon, the monster IELTS. And let me tell you, it is doable, it is possible, it is all about your preparation, and it's all about practice, getting ready for the exam. And if you want someone that can help you out, feel free to check the link down in the description, because I'm here to help. I help students that want to self-study, or I also run courses. And again, there is also a free guide. Go ahead, get it for free. It's just, again, my present to you. So if you're listening to this, or if you're watching and you want a guide and you're thinking about which exam you should take, go ahead. It's in the description of the video or in the show notes. You can get it for free. Check it out. I hope that it really helps you. But again, you should be always thinking on improving your English. That is my philosophy. I'm gonna be talking a bit more about this in more detail in a future episode very soon. And it is as simple as that. What I normally like to tell students is, I know you want your visa. I know you want to basically start or continue your process in Australia. And I know that your English is good. You can communicate. You can do, things at a great extent. However, one thing is doing that, and another one is just scraping through, just getting the minimum that you need, and then going for life and continuing your process. Because the other problem is, and this is something that I think people don't think about, is, and I've started to notice that you guys, everyone out there, the people that want to come and stay in Australia, a lot of you want to improve your English. So it's not just I want to pass the test, it's like I want to pass the test, obviously, because I want to stay in Australia, but I also want to improve my skills. And sometimes if you're looking only for the shortcut, it is gonna take you longer. I know of cases of people who, yes, they get their PTE, but then they struggle at work, or they struggle meeting people, or they struggle with their skills, like they know. Interestingly enough, I've had people telling me, hey, I want you to teach me about PTE. And then it's like, do you teach any tricks? And I said, look, I don't teach any tricks because in my opinion, the tricks don't really work. I already said that, sorry. But then this person told me, yes, I know. And I'm happy you said that because I know people who have a 70 or more in PTE academic and their English is not good. And that person said to me, look, Emilio, I'm sorry, I'm not the teacher, I'm not the expert, I don't know, but I know, I can tell that they don't feel confident, that they struggle, that they know that their English is not that good. And it is, at the end of the day, a big problem. Because yes, okay, you get your visa, but if your English is not good, and this is what I normally say, because I've heard a lot of PTE people saying, you don't need good English to get a good PTE. And I will repeat myself, that's true. Maybe you don't need a really good English to get PTE, but you do need really good English to basically work in your profession. You do need good English if you want to deal with customer service. You need good English skills if you want to go for an interview. You obviously need good English skills if you have to give a presentation. If you ever need to do any type of presentation at work or in any setting, you need to have good English skills. Let alone if you want to socialize, if you want to meet people. What are you going to do if you're at a party and then you cannot talk to anyone? Or if you know deep inside of you that you don't feel comfortable? Does your English needs to be perfect and you need to sound like the next Aussie? Yeah, no, I'm good, I'm yeah. Well, that's not what I'm saying. So let's not think that I'm just telling you this because I'm just saying, oh, do IELTS because I prefer IELTS to the PTE. No. My advice, it's still the same. What I think that you should do, or like if anyone is listening and anyone is thinking of taking one exam or the other, I would say do both. With the internet, there are so many options, so many things to do. There are some websites that may have, for example, Abe Uni, that I think they do, well, not I think, they do. They do the mock tests. Maybe do a mock test from them. It's like, I think, $30, $35. It is probably one of the most cost-effective ways of doing a mock test. Do a mock test in PTE and see how you feel. Do a practice test in IELTS and see how you go, and then you can compare. Because at the end of the day, your friend, the person telling you go and do PTE, that person is not going with you. I'm afraid to tell you. It is you versus the test. And I say this to students in class, it's a bit of a joke. And it's like, look guys, if I could, I would go. I would put on a mask and do the test for you, but for obvious reasons I can't, because if I do, I'll get in trouble, then I cannot teach, and then I couldn't do the podcast, and that's not good. But and students get it, and I'm sure that that you understand what I'm trying to say. Yes, I mean, obviously, maybe one is a bit easier, but is that the only option? Not necessarily. And the other thing that I thought of telling you guys is that I've noticed how there is a bit of a shift, because now, yes, there is people looking for the tips. As I just said before, there is also people that think, I want to improve my skills, I want to improve my English, and also get PTE. And there is, then there is this group that said to me, I know there are tricks, but I also know I have to work on my skills, and I'm gonna take the test in 6 months or more. And this blew my mind because probably you remember that I've said not long ago, I think this would be like about a month ago or a few episodes ago, of like the case of a student who contacted me. It would have been like a Wednesday, and we had less than 5 days to get ready for PTE. This person failed PTE 4 times. And guess what happened? I mean, we had a bit of a miracle, so it is a good story, you know? I'm really happy that I can come here and say it was a good story. But this person said to me, this is my only chance, or my last chance, I should say, because if I don't pass PTE, I need to go back to my home country. I have done PTE so many times, it is too expensive, and my visa is expiring. Interestingly enough, more and more people are doing the complete opposite. This is obviously, again, another extreme case. Is every case like this? Of course not. Are all Latinos like that? No, but sometimes, you know, there is a few things that keep up with the stereotype, you know? You know, my Latinos, that I love you guys. Thank you so much for the support. But again, it's something to really highlight that now, maybe because of all these changes, or even because of all these things that are being said about these 2 exams, more and more people are preparing for them with more time. And that's probably something that, again, it's a big thing, especially for someone who works with people that need to pass these exams. You don't want to be in a situation where you have to be rushing and you are all stressed up and you take the exam 3 times in the same month, because then what? You lost, well, or like you spent over $1,000. You are doing overtime, or maybe you are maxing your credit card. It is too much stress. And then you, on top of all that, you also have other things about life. So it is great. I'm really happy, and I'm happy that this trend is appearing of people thinking, you know what, I had just recently a student, a most likely future student, having a chat with me saying, hey Emilio, tell me about your classes, about this and that. And I started to tell him how I run the PTE and IELTS courses, and this person said, okay, look, good. I don't know when I should join your course, because I'm thinking, listen carefully, because this freaked me out. I'm thinking of taking the exam maybe in May or June next year. I thought, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I thought you were gonna say maybe September, maybe October, you know, like maybe 3 months, 4 months. No, almost, 10 months. So again, big preparation. So this is great. And again, I'm just quoting what this person said to me, and it was like, yes, Emilio, of course. I mean, I'm asking you now because I know that the test is not cheap. I also have to invest in the preparation. I don't want to do the test 5 times. I would rather prepare and then pass the test, probably like at my first or second attempt. And also, you know, all the visa changes, all these things, everything is getting really expensive. So I would rather save in preparing and in planning. Oh my God, I think that story says a lot on its own. It is great that more future students, more international students, people are thinking of doing this, because then it is just less pressure on you. And I said this in a previous episode, please do it, because it is less pressure for me. I don't know how other teachers or other schools work, but I'm the type of person that if you or if my student takes PTE or IELTS, I freak out too, because I know how it feels. And you know, I say it with a smile. I just went from the for the Japanese IELTS or PTE, however you want to call it. I had that 10 days ago. So trust me, I know, and I've done obviously these other 2 exams, so I know how you guys feel. And when someone says to me, my options are taking the test, passing, or going back to my country, I also get a bit of a heart attack, because it is extra stress. And this is coming from someone whose plan was pass the exam or stay in Australia or go swimming to New Zealand. You know, my plan, again, and this is getting into, you know, the way my country, things that happen in my country and etc., my own situation. So for me, I couldn't consider the option of, oh, okay, if this doesn't work, I'm just gonna go back to my country and do this and do that, which, you know, I mean, at least looking now in hindsight, I guess maybe that's a good push, but it's really a lot of pressure. And, you know, if we can avoid that by preparing with time, why not, you know? And I also know that a lot of students and people here, or maybe some of you may not have that same pressure, and that's good. I say to some students from other countries in South America, like, I know that there are problems in your country, but looking at things that from Venezuela's point of view, your country is amazing, And even students tell me, like, look, Emilio, don't take it the wrong way, but this is not everything. Like, it's not the end of the world. I am a manager, or I am a lawyer, or I am this or that in my country. I could go back and life continues. But that's not everyone's case. There are some of you that for whatever reason, you love Australia, you love the kangaroos, you love the koalas, and you want to stay. And you're thinking, okay, what exam should I take? So unfortunately, I know you wanted me to say one or the other. I think probably I would go back to something that maybe I have hinted before, and I'll just say it again. If you have got a bit of time and you need to take IELTS, or if you're thinking, let me rephrase that. If you're thinking of an exam that will help you overall to improve your English skills, to push you more, to take you to the next level, I think IELTS is the better exam to do that. Does that mean that PTE is a bad exam and that you cannot improve your skills? Not necessarily, but I get a feeling that with IELTS, because of the way the test is and because of the, let's say, how structured and all the history it's got, it has more of that push that will help people to take it to the next level. With PTE, and I'll say it with all honesty, I think the problem is that people just get way too overconfident because they know a trick, because they watch a video here on YouTube or somewhere, I don't know, or someone tells them, and then it's like, okay, look, I know PTE, or for whatever reason, it's like, yeah, my English is good enough, I'm just not gonna practice because everyone says it's easy, and then it's like being underprepared or not being prepared enough, not being well prepared. That's usually what happens with PTE. In some cases, is that every case? No, of course there is people that have got great skills and they go and they crush PTE. And if they were to do that in IELTS, it's not like they would get a bad score, but maybe in PTE they get a better score, and that just helps them with their visas and everything. So why wouldn't you do that? So that's also a valid point, And another thing that it's important to mention is that it is likely that PTE may change. There is a lot of speculation, so at the time, as of today, there is no official change, or not that I know of. And if that's the case, I guess we have to wait until we hear from Pearson, the people that created the test. At the towards the November, December last year, 2 new questions were introduced into the exam, but these 2 questions were not, were not included in the score. And now there is a chance, there are rumors like, oh, PT is going to change this or that. But again, nothing has been officially said or announced. That's why I'm coming here in the podcast saying, look, as of now, the test remains the same, but who knows? There may be some changes. Maybe the test will become more difficult, which, in all honesty, it wouldn't be too bad because, if that happens, if the test becomes a bit more difficult, candidates and people that get a PT test, that get a good score, they will get a better English, which will help them with everything if they want to, stay in Australia. So I think it is a big win, however you look at it. And it is also important to note and to mention and to say that IELTS could still be a good exam for you if, for whatever reason, you want to have more options, or you're thinking of North America, maybe you're thinking about the UK. Yes, I know that PTE is also used in the UK, but again, IELTS is just the most popular one. And especially with Canada, right? Because, sometimes there is this debate, or should I go to Australia? Should I go to Canada? Should I just stay with the kangaroos or embrace the cold for a few months? And maybe in some cases, I've had people who just go for IELTS because they want that peace of mind. And that's also valid. So you could think about it you could think about it that way as well. Asking yourself, do I 100% just want to be in Australia? Aussie, 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 oi, 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 aka daka, and True Blue, the Southern Cross, the whole, everything about being Australian or being in Australia. Is that what you really want? Maybe in your situation, maybe in your case, you want to have more options. And if that's the case, and you think, look, I don't really mind. I mean, I love Australia. It's a beautiful country. I would like to stay here. But hey, if I get some options to stay or go to Canada, I would happily go to Canada. Well, maybe in that case, IELTS could also be a good option for that. Because with PTE, I think, look, I'll have to do more research on this, but as of today, I can say that I don't know. And I think that, again, IELTS will still be the go-to exam if you are thinking of migration purposes, if you're thinking of going to basically start a life in Canada. That's going to be the test that would really help you to show your English skills. Maybe PTE, not yet. In the future, maybe, but again, that's something that we would have to wait to and know about. And look, this is an interesting topic. There is a lot to unpack, a lot to cover. So if you're thinking of getting these exams, and again, like I said, if you have any questions, make sure to get in touch either via social media, or you can again get your guide. It's down below. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Let's just wrap it up here. And before we go, I want to say obviously big thank you for your support. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, that it helped. Let me know in the comments, let me know, as I said, let me know in social media, or let me know even via Spotify. What do you think about all this? Do you prefer one exam? Do you prefer the other? Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments? Maybe you can share your experience. And of course, thank you for watching or for being here with me, because I know maybe you were on your commute, maybe you're just at home relaxing, maybe you are just on your way to meet some friends, maybe you're gonna do groceries, maybe you just went for a walk. Who knows? I was part of your day and you were part of my day too. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support. I hope you liked this episode as much as I did. But don't worry, I'll see you in the next one. So take care and bye for now.